Alright, so I'm going to remove these rear shocks and replace them. First things first is you want to crack the lug nuts before you jack it up. Break them loose. Don't take them off, just break them loose. And then you're going to raise each side one at a time and put a jack stand underneath it. Make sure you do that. Okay, and there's a little nut. Okay, I got this, like, there's a whole set of little tools, but this is for removing those little pesky clips without damaging them. Okay, bam, took it out. And there's several of them. You're gonna have to pull this back enough to, okay, this back. It's a 14, and then all right, I'm under the vehicle. I have it safely supported with jack stands. It's not a 14 millimeter, bigger. Hold on. All right, jack stands on both sides, chuck, and an impact, which I have here. And you're gonna break that loose and remove it. Okay, next you have this one, 14 millimeter. Okay, you find it on Amazon. You can reuse them. Side there in the trunk, and reuse the springs because I just ordered the shocks on rockauto.com because I didn't want to spend the money. They're cheaper than the quick strut, but if you got the money, the quick strut's way easier. Just go that route. But I'm gonna go ahead and reuse the parts on this and just replace the shock itself. Anyway, all right. So now I'm gonna yeah, so you could see where I removed that that bolt from underneath going up. You only have one like that, okay? I don't know why they do it that way, but they do it that way. So that's gone. Now I got to remove this one. Should be I'm not sure. Could be smaller than 14. I'll find out right now. So we got to remove this one and that one down here. Yeah. Okay. No, they're 14 millimeter. This one's going to be harder. I'm going to have to get me some kind of a wobble extension. Let me see here. Okay, so once you remove those other two nuts on top, then you come back down the bottom and you're going to gently just push up on this here and then use your other hand and hit the shock this way and it'll just pop loose and come right off. And there's a big flat washer kind of holding it on there. That'll come off with it. Okay, that's it. Now you got your shock out. But look, you see how dirty that is? See all that grime? Because it's been leaking, it's blown. Alright? So yeah, I definitely had to replace you. You can see it better now, how it looks. Okay, that's the bottom of the shock here. But yeah, you can see all that where it's leaking. Just completely shot. So unfortunately I'm going to have to take this apart, and I got a special tool to compress this spring to prevent it from shooting up at me. Okay, so if you've got the quick struts, okay, which is basically a quick strut is like this whole unit with the spring, everything's there in the package. You pull out of the box and it looks like this. Your job is over. It's easy. You just get the new one and you install it, then reverse order of the way I showed you, and it's gonna go right back in there. Okay, and you're done. But if you didn't and you're trying to save a buck like me, then we got to remove these springs. So if you want to stick around on this video, I'll show you how to do that, how I do that. And there's a tool in AutoZone that I use, their rent a tool program, or not rent, it's a loan a tool, and you got to pay so much money for the product up front, and then when you're done using it, you bring it back all in one piece, then you get your money back. And this is the McPherson strut spring compressor. It's a pretty simple tool and pretty straightforward too. But yeah, this is going to hook into your both sides of your. You're going to put one of these on one side of the spring and the other one on the other side of the spring, and you're going to probably turn this to compress it, draw it in, take the pressure off. And once you do that safely enough, then you can remove this right here. That nut right here I was showing you about earlier. Alright, so that little instructions on inside of the box are these compressor deals for your spring. It says to use some oil on the threaded portion before you begin this procedure. So I'm putting a little bit of 3-in-1 oil, and I'm gonna respect what they recommend to do, you know. Probably some won't damage these threads when you're cranking down on it. Gives it more ease of tightening and loosening, whatever. Okay, that's pretty good. All right. Okay, so you want to make sure, and you're going to mount these 180 degrees apart, okay, from each other, just like that. And the way I did it was, I went between the bolts. See this bolt here? That silver bolt there and there. You're going to mount this where it's right in the middle on one side, and do the same on the other side. That way, this won't interfere. You won't hit, you know, as you're tightening this rod won't hit nothing over here on your flanges that stick out. So it's really the only way you could do it. And then there's these safety pins, right? I'll make sure you have them all the way in for safety. All right, on all sides. And you're gonna get a 19mm, and you're just gonna crank it to the right and tighten the same, pretty much, you know. You do 5 turns here, 5 turns here, back and forth, till you get the spring compressed enough to take the tension off to where you can remove this. And then you're gonna slowly back this the other way off each side in reverse order, and then you'll be able to get your shock out safely. Okay, so I compressed it down to about 3 inches in between those blocks on each side. I think that's enough compression to safely remove the nut here. However, the shaft's gonna spin. So you're gonna need a 6mm hex socket. You're gonna hold this tight, and you're gonna loosen this with a 17mm wrench. Okay? So you're gonna mount your little ratchet onto the end of this here. Hold this tight, and you're gonna break it loose here. Alright, so once you get it worked off so much, it'll just pop loose. Your shaft's in here, and then you can grab it up here, and this will just pull right out from the bottom. These have to be in place. Okay, so you're going to keep it under tension, that spring, and you're going to remove the old shock, and you're going to replace it with your new shock. And then you're going to tighten this back on, lock it into that housing there. And then once all that's all said and done, then you could start backing these off back to, and put them under, put the spring under tension again. And then you could remove these. So, but that's last. See how this just slides right out? Boom. Okay. And it looks horrible, but basically it's the same as this new one I got from Rock Auto. See? All right. You're gonna take off this nut on your new shock, get it out of the way. And then you're gonna slide your new shock up in there. Okay. And you got to get started in this hole over here, and I'm gonna have to put the phone down for that. Okay, I guess I didn't have it compressed enough because I was having trouble getting the new nut and washer started on the end of the shaft when I put the new one in there. It wasn't quite sticking out far enough to get that nut to go on the threads of the shaft, so I had to compress this more, like closer to 2 inches on either side, and then there was enough sticking up through the top where I could get it started. Still had to push it down a little bit with one hand and then get it started with the other, and well, anyways, I got it on there, so now I could tighten that on. All right, so I tightened this really good on here, nice and tight. Okay, so now the new shock's installed, and you see how that end of that spring is going to stop and catch right here, how that little shape of the shock. Okay, that's what you want. Okay, that is what you want. And then now we're ready to back these off. Okay, but make sure again that these pins, these safety pins, are all the way in, because you don't want nothing pinching you. And I cleaned up the spring with some engine degreaser and a pressure washer, and it's good as new. I'm going to install it. I'm not going to bore you with that. Basically the reverse of how I took it out. Now there is a left and a right on these brackets here. See that? It says 1R. So this is for the right side. So make sure that you do them one at a time so you don't confuse these parts here. And if you want to get these ones that I got off of rockauto.com, here's the TRW JGM 4452S gas, and that will fit your 2010 Corolla. Of course, I have a Japanese model, but it says this will fit Japanese made models or American made. Some of these Corollas are made in Japan, some are manufactured in the US. So anyways, it should be fine.